Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we are doing the part 2 of teaching a beginner how to do a tissue culture. So today we are going to be doing some little bit of aseptic technique. We have some plants that we are going to be moving into fresh media. So a lot of you guys, when you get started on tissue culture, you already purchase plants that are come like already pre-sterilized in like a cup or like in a bag. So this is the best way to get started in culture because it just saves you a lot of time. So one of the things is you need to learn how to move the plants that are already sterile to fresh media without contaminating them. So to do that, you have to be as clean as possible. So we are here in the hood. This is a laminar flow hood. If you don't have a laminar flow hood, that's okay, as long as you keep it as clean as possible, maybe in like a box, or we have like the mini hood as well. You can successfully move the plants to culture. So let's get started. So what we want to be talking first is that we need our PPE or personal protective equipment. So we have our gloves that not only protects us from the alcohol, but also protects helps us keep clean environment. Have a face mask because as we are talking, we don't want to breathe directly into our plants. That's going to introduce contaminants into our media, into our cultures, which is not good. So I'm going to put my mask on. And the first thing we do is we turn on the laminar flow hood. The hood has been on for over an hour now, so you keep the air circulating. Not only it cleans the air that is inside the hood, but also cleans the air that is in the entire room. So that's what we do, and we are going to spray everything. So we're going to spray our pesos, the ones that have the media. We're going to spray our plate, also the containers that have the fresh media. We also want to spray those, even though they've been here sitting in the hood. And I spray those before we place it in the hood. It's always good to keep spraying over and over. I mean, all we're spraying is just 70% isopropyl alcohol. Very cheap. It's a lot cheaper to you use a lot of alcohol. You can never use too much alcohol. It's really cheap. It's much better to use more alcohol than just getting your cultures contaminated. So we have everything have its spray. Keep everything. All our surfaces. We also have some paper towels as well. Some paper towels to use to clean our environment right here. So what I'm going to do, I always like to keep a paper towel just here sitting with me. In case I spray a bunch of alcohol or something, I just kind of wipe it down. It's a clean paper towel. So I want to remove the wrap from the culture, and you already did, right?
Yeah.
So because I took the wrap, the inside I don't know if it's clean, so I just want to spray it again with bunch more alcohol. Now there are different things about depending on which type of hood you are working with. We are working in a vertical laminar flow hood, which means that the air is coming from the top. So that means that you have to be very careful where you put your hands. So you have your hands on top of your cultures, you are obstructing the clean airflow, which can lead to contamination. If you have a horizontal flow hood, which means that the filter is on the back and it comes to you, make sure that you don't have anything on the front. So let's say I have this big sterilizer, I don't want to work right here because that's going to block the air. But because we are working all the way from the top, that's okay. Everything on this area is clean. Another thing that I've seen a lot of beginners, one of the biggest mistakes that beginners do is that they work right here on the very edge of the table, which is not good because I don't consider, even though we are still inside of the hood, I don't consider this to be very clean. So I always like to work at least 2/3 inside of the hood, where that's where I consider this to be like a clean environment.
Yep.
Also, you need to be, when you're working with your tools, let's say you grab a tool, make sure to grab it with the hand that is closer to the tool, and then just give it to the other hand. It's better to do that than trying to reach over, because as you're reaching over, you may be moving more air. You're trying to move as little air as possible. Don't make very fast movements, and that's going to keep you okay. So you want to be as careful as possible. And well, I guess let's get started. So today we are working with Philodendron spiritusante. So this is the plant that I'm working. What are you working with, Shay?
Same one, Philodendron spiritus.
Spiritusante.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a plant that is very popular in tissue culture now, which is good because this used to be a plant that used to be super expensive. So the price of this plant has gone down significantly. So I'm going to take my forceps out of the hot glad bead sterilizer, and then I'm just going to leave it sit here for a moment to let them cool down. Yeah, I already sprayed this area as well. So I want to spray this again. You can never use too much alcohol, so you just keep spraying everything. Especially if you are working in a not so like we are here in the lab, so we are a bit more a clean environment. But if you are working from home, if you don't have a laminar flow hood, it's important to always keep spraying, keep all your tools nicely and clean as possible. So they have cooled down a little bit, so I want to remove the lid. When taking the lid off, take the lid off, and you can place it in the hood, but make sure it's facing up, and don't obstruct the air of the hoods. You don't want, because you need to put the cap back on, you don't want to contaminate the lid. So I want to take, like for example, this, I can take one clump at a time. So I'm taking one clump, and then I'm going to put the lid back on the container, just while I'm working with the other clump. So I just, it stays in the container so it stays clean. And then over here, what I'm going to do is start splitting the plant. So you want to split these plants as much as possible. However, we have to be careful, because if you are working on an environment where you don't have a laminar flow hood, it's better to work fast. Then you don't want to leave the plants open or in the open for too long. You want to move them to the clean media as quick as possible. So it may not give you enough time to do what we are doing, which is going to be trying to split the plants almost individually. You can still leave a larger clump, that's still okay. But just like this, just split the plants as much as possible. Also at this point, it's good to get rid of dead leaves, roots. You don't need roots on multiplication stage. So if you have any extra dead leaves or roots, you can get rid of them on this moment. There we go. So I made pretty quick work on this clump. How are you doing, Shay?
Just trying not to tear any roots.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, now they're falling apart real easy.
Yeah, so something that when working with this clump, it does look difficult. It looks like we're doing like pretty rough work, but they actually come out pretty easy. And let me tell you, there is like a balance between like being like too gentle and slow, and being like too rough and I don't know, faster. Like there is a balance where you don't want to go too fast, where you are tearing all the plants apart, but you also don't want to be like too slow, where it just takes you forever to split the plants. One, because you don't want to leave the plants in the open for too long, and second is because, I mean, if you're doing this as for a business, obviously it takes you a long time to do this. I mean, it's less efficient, so you are not making as much money as you potentially could. So What I have right here is this clump, which doesn't have any leaves, and they use dead plant material. So I'm just going to leave this to the side. I'm not going to be using that part. Also this part, and I'm going to re-sterilize my forceps. This sterilizer that I have right here gets to I know it's kind of flashing, but it's 290 degrees Celsius. This is a professional glass bead sterilizer. It gets very, very hot, very quick. So only the tools needs to be in the sterilizer, sit in the sterilizer for only like 10 seconds to be able to get a sterile tools. The sterilizer that Shay is using, I'm going to move. Oh, actually, you can see there on the corner. So that sterilizer is a much more cheaper. That's around $30, and but only that one only gets to around 150 to 175 degrees Celsius. So to be able to sterilize the tools, you need to leave them in the sterilizer for at least 30 to 60 seconds. So it just needs more time. With this one, you need like 10 seconds. With that one, you need like 30 to 60 seconds, just because of the difference in temperature.
Yeah.
But also there is a massive difference in price. That one is like $25, $30. This one is around $600, $650. All right, so I touch my sleeve, so I want to re-spray my hands with more isopropyl alcohol, and I'm going to start putting the plants in my container. So I grab the lid, and I like to keep the lid on my right hand. Some people like to take the lid, and like you did, just put it in on the surface, which is perfectly fine. A lot of the times, especially working in like not in the hood, I just like to keep it, so I just don't completely have the container all the way open. But then we place in the plants. We're trying to kind of make this a little bit needlework, where just going all the way around. Had to put I would say between 10 to 15, maybe 20 plants or smaller clumps. That's usually what we put in there.
And the consistency of this is really nice.
Yeah, the consistency of the gel, it feels pretty good.
This is Gellan Gum?
This gel is Gellan Gum, which I will show you one container. Like, well, let me see. So this, look how crystal clear this is. Super crystal clear. This is Gellan Gum. It's amazing for plant tissue culture. You can see all the where this is makes very easy to see any contamination, any bacteria growth
and root activity.
Yeah, which I mean, we are using. We're trying to promote we are doing like a proper aseptic technique, so we don't expect to see any contamination. But also as an insurance, we also have the media also has 1 milliliter of ppm, plant preservative mixture, which also helps inhibit the growth of fungus and bacteria. So we're just going to do this, fill up all of our containers. And how does this? How is this different from, let's say, from fungus?
So with fungi, typically they're growing across the surface. So you wouldn't see anything underneath. So the clarity of the media isn't as important. A lot of people even put dye in so that they can see the surface better.
Okay. And what about the aseptic technique? Like, do you see, like, is there any difference between like a plant and like a fungi?
I would say, in terms of technique, no, it's all the same. You just have to make sure we're being present about where our hands are and where they have been. And as long as you make sure every step is sterile, the work is typically sterile too.
Yeah, that's right. So usually for, let's say for fungi, what is your like goal, like percentage of like contamination free? Like let's say for tissue culture is usually we stay around like 95, 97 to percent like sterility rate. So we also obviously we will see some contamination. What is the like contamination ranges that you see like on fungi?
So even at home, you want to shoot for 100%.
Okay.
It's totally possible. And even working outside of a float hood with an oven, using oven tech, and that's using the heat from an oven, like when you open an oven, the heat will come out. I used that technique for years, and I had 100% success rate with that.
Nice.
So it's really down to the technique. When you get really good, or when you have a lot of experience, you can feel the contamination. Like, you know when you contaminate something. Like you'll reach over a plate, or you'll drop a tool or something, and then you know. And it's always best to just sterilize it immediately.
Right. Yeah. So sometimes, like, if you are working, if you don't have a laminar flow hood, I will sterilize my tools. You don't have the luxury of leaving the hood sitting here. You don't have a laminar flow hood. So it's better to sterilize your tools directly from the glass bead sterilizer, or you're using a Bunsen burner or a flame. And what you do is just go straight to the media to cool them your tools down. So that cools down the tools, and then you can then go ahead and grab the plants. You don't want to burn the plants, so you cool your faucet first. Also, you were saying about the consistency of this gel. With plant, we obviously have roots, so the gel is solid, but it's not like super solid. It's like kind of like jello. It's like you can put the plants in there really easily. I know with fungi, you can it's a different. You have a more solid gel, right? With agar.
Yeah, when the mycelium get wet, their colonization time increases, and we want a fast timing. So we typically go for like a very firm, almost like if we were talking about tofu. You want a very firm consistency of your gel. But for plants, we want almost like a silken tofu, where it's like pretty solid. It just gives the plants something to dig through.
Right. So for plants, we use, if we're using agar, we use around 6 to 8 grams. If we're using Gellan Gum, like right here, we use between 2 and 4. So this is 3 grams, which for my opinion, this is perfect. But for fungi, you say how much you use of agar?
I use about 20 grams per liter. And that'll make sure that it's really nice and consistent. And so that when my mycelium I'll maybe inoculate it with a piece of grain that's been colonized, so that's grain spawn. I'll put the grain spawn right in the middle and kind of like set it on top. And the mycelium will actually root themselves onto the surface and then go outward. So they kind of, they do root, but they don't go down too much.
Nice. So I just clean my plate. I have a bunch of plant residue, so I just clean my plate, and then I respray with a bunch of isopropyl alcohol. Back when I was working at my other lab, I would set the plate on fire to evaporate all the alcohol to make this process a little bit faster. But here on this lab, on this building, we are technically not much allowed to use that much fire. I mean, it will make a very big fire. So we use better to keep safe and then use weight for it. Especially also you are working from home, you don't want to set things on fire. So that's why I love to use a glass bead sterilizer. So like again, if you don't have obviously this $600 glass bead sterilizer, but you can use like one of those, which is only like $25-30, and it works great. The only thing is that you need to wait for a little bit longer time to make sure you have a sterile tools. Right. So I'm going to grab my keep a spray in my hands. I spray the container because I already opened it and closed it, so I just want to respray. See, if you don't have a hood, I will grow directly clump like this. I will do something like this. So if you don't have a hood, I will just very, very quickly grab make this into like clumps. And there I just made a mistake here. You see, I just reached it this way. I should not have done that. I should have passed it to my other hand. So don't do that, because you won't want to put your hands on top of the containers. But what I would do is literally grab a couple clumps. I don't need that, and place it in my media, and just move on to the next one. You want to do this fast. You are not working in a hood. So just like this. So you want to keep your container open for the least amount of time as possible.
So I got 2 big clumps here, and I'm gonna break one off, put that over here. Gonna move this to the back here. Bring this to the front. I'm gonna tear this up a little bit. Try not to damage the roots so that they can still use them. Some big roots here. That first tear is always the hardest one, just figuring out the best way to separate them all.
Yeah.
So I'm down to my last plate. I'm gonna stuff them all, the last of this in there. I'm gonna keep this last bunch together. I think, yeah, because it's got like some really nice roots. I wanna see those like in action. So I'm just gonna go ahead and place that right here.
Alright guys, I hope you have enjoyed it. So we have finished our Philodendron Espiritu Santi. We have put the labels and put the seal. So we like to use is some saline wrap that makes sure to there is no contaminated air that can go inside of the container. So make sure it keeps the container or the inside of the container nice and clean. From here, basically we wait like in 2 weeks. That's if there is any contamination, it's going to start showing up. If it's a low contamination, it starts to show up in about a week. But then to be on the safer side, I would say about 3 to 4 weeks. That if there is no contamination, then you are good to go. There is you did everything correctly. So I hope you have enjoyed it. On the next video, we are going to be sterilizing some plants and then introducing them to tissue culture. So I hope you join us for that, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and all social media. We'll see you later. Goodbye. Thanks for watching the video. If you are enjoying these tissue culture videos, make sure to follow us on social media for more informative content. And if you are interested on conducting your own tissue culture experiments, make sure to check us out at plantsafetechnology.com for all the products you need to get started. Use code FP10 for 10% off on your first purchase.